Celtics Reddit podcast.
Back out to Smart. Fakes the pass all the time. Three. Bang! Gets a Williams screen. Lobs it up to Robert Williams.
Shouldn't he know? Jaylen Brown.
Tatum. Durant, the long reach. Tatum crossover pull-up jumper. It's good. 50 points for Jason Tatum.
Hello and welcome to the Celtics Reddit podcast. Ben Vallis here. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Coming up on the show, news out of the now concluded Summer League and what's going on with those final few roster spots. Then a little bit later, some real off-season juice. We're going to discuss the worst fan bases that we had to deal with as fans throughout the Celtics' recent playoff run, plus a bunch of other stuff. Joining us for this one, he recently joined the pod and he's back for more. Got to be a good sign. Jake Eisenberg, how's it going, dude?
I'm doing good. I've got my Celtics mug, lemon ginger tea, getting me through the second day of my 2-day hangover. So we're good. We're doing good. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Welcome to the 2-day hangover stage of life, aka 30s
Yeah.
and above. Doing well. Yeah, I had my 2-year-old's birthday on the weekend, so no hangovers for me. Which I just realized, as I said out loud, is extremely boring. But we're entering into this drought, right? This Celtics content drought. Let's just dive right in. Summer League is over. It's sad. Like I said, no more Celtics anything for a while. Certainly nothing on court. Kick us off here, Jake. Who was the most impressive Summer League Celtic overall? Now that it's all said and done.
Most impressive is a tricky one for me, but in Summer League, you get so excited, and I always find I go through waves of excitement. I kind of got a little fatigue in the middle of Summer League, but I got right back in towards the end. But for me, coming in, I was a huge Johan Begaron fan, and could not be happier with Begaron. I could not be happier with how he's played in the Summer League. Like, he's clearly improved massively from year 1 to year 2. Looks like he really belongs out there. From this raw 18-year-old French kid to kind of being the best player on the court for a couple of Summer League games, I think it's pretty impressive. So he's been my favorite so far.
Yeah, I was hoping it would be Sam Hauser, right? It just seemed like he was poised. I don't know why I thought this, but like poised to dominate, just because he was signed and it's a vote of confidence from the Celtics and that he would show out. And then he copped some sort of an injury. It might have been his shoulder, and we didn't see much of him. And then Matt Ryan, I guess, who was playing fantastically well. Not just hitting shots, but hitting shots off the dribble as well, and at an efficient clip. And then he, of course, got injured and didn't get a chance to sort of give us enough sample size to maybe really walk away with that much confidence of him. Kabengele, I think, is the other one. And I think, Kabengele, I need to learn, I think, to pronounce his name now that he's been signed to a 2-way deal by the Celtics. He looked decent for Summer League, right? I think that's the thing and the caveat that we have to wrap around all of this is like all these guys look good in the Summer League, which really is nowhere near close to the actual NBA. The dude's 25. He was drafted in 2019. Like, while he was, to me, the most impressive, if he was going to demonstrate, some value as a 15th man on the roster or even higher on the roster, might have already done so already. So while, I'm happy that they signed him on a 2-way deal, I'm happy that he'll get some run for the Celtics, and I do feel like he was the most, I guess, impressive. I don't know, and we're going to get to the roster spots in a second. I don't know if we're going to see him get promoted to that extra roster spot anytime soon.
Yeah, look, it happens though. I think Gary Payton's probably the most recent famous example of kind of toiling away in the G League for a few years and then becoming one of the most important players on a finals team. Now, obviously, that's best case scenario. And I'm someone who always is optimistic and hopes for the best. Like, I'm high as hell off Summer League fumes. I got back at 2 a.m. Saturday night, and in preparation, I'm firing up Kabengele and Johan Begaron highlights. And let me tell you, if you want to get confident about some of your players, come home on Saturday night at 2 a.m. and fire up some highlights, and you're going to be thinking, is Johan a fringe all-star? Yeah, that's the secret. I don't know. Maybe he is. But like, what do you want from the 2-way guys? Outside of like a bit of insurance, I think he definitely showed enough athleticism to fill that lob threat role that Rob has. So I think offensively, his role can kind of be quite seamless for him to play. I think 50 possible games. But your 2-way guys, you want the vibes. You've got Dikembe Mutombo's nephew. massive smile, hustle guy, loves Al Horford. Like, what more can you ask for from the two-way guy?
Yeah, can shoot the three as well, and give our guys a run for their money, like in training camp and like on the practice court as well. So I like that he can stretch the floor and he'll kind of make whoever's defending him, in practice from our starting lineup, sort of run around a little bit and get their legs about them. There's a post you talked about Begaron a second ago. There's a post on Celtics Reddit by Ethereal3XP. Who said, "Can someone tell me what happens to Wuhan Begaron?" I'm never going to be able to say his name right. I don't know why. It's a French name. It's like not that distant from English. What do you think's going to happen? I'll simplify the question a little bit. Is there a chance that he's going to show up in some form of green uniform, whether it be the Maine or the Boston Celtics, or is he going to head back to Paris?
Yeah, it seems like all indications are that he's going to head back to Paris. That seems to make the most sense from a roster construction point of view, because you can hold on to his rights for one more year. He's only 19. He's probably not going to fill a super, not going to play a lot of minutes this year for the Celtics. So that seems like the most likely thing. But I have seen a couple of tweets and stuff about he's still in the mix for a roster spot, and I need to do more research on this, but like, what's the level of development what's the difference between between the G League and sending him back to Paris? I know that the team that he's on in that league isn't exactly Barcelona and Real Madrid. And so how much more development? He obviously developed a lot, so that's not a problem, but how much more can he develop if we get him into a Celtics green and we send him down to Maine throughout the season? I think that's a really hard question to answer. So it's hard to say what's going to happen, but the most likely thing is we're going to have to count on Timmy to cut together Paris basketball highlights for another year.
The supercut. Yeah, I mean, he's not going to get a two-way. Those two-way contracts have already been used up. So it's either the G League or Paris, and like you might at this point ask him what he wants if you're Brad Stevens and co. And 19 years old, obviously French. Might want to go back to France and continue to play there while he sort of grows and matures a little bit. If you're asking me and what I very personally and selfishly want, I want him over here, right, with NBA coaching and sort of in the system, albeit on the outer fringes of that system, just sort of acclimating and maybe growing a little further in what can be offered to him over in the States. So be interesting to see. Moving on, JD Davison ends his summer league with the highest assists per game of any player in the league that was posted to the sub by Sybil the Soothsayer. 8.2 dimes per game, edging out Josh Giddey's 8.0. And I believe he had a better assist to turnover ratio as well than Josh Giddey. And this user goes on to say, it looks like he's got the speed and vision to play in the league. Wow. Let's hope Brad found a second round gem, aka Nikola Jokic. I don't know, dude. Can I just let you go off on JD Davison for a little bit? Feels like that's where we're at.
Man, the hype around some of these guys is real. This is why I love Summer League, man. Why?
So good.
Yes, we're going to caveat that it's Summer League or whatever. I'd much rather just live my life thinking that we found the next diamond in the rough. That's way more fun. And until they turn into, I know Spoonie's not here, and I don't want to talk shit about his guy without him, turns into Neesmith, where he can't even score it in Summer League. Until that point, I'm going to believe that they're going to become something. And I don't know how you can't feel good about the guy that you took at 53. Clearly in the top percentile of athletes, even at Summer League, you can tell that he's one of the more elite athletic people on the court. Has playmaking chops, great lob thrower, which works great. I mean, him and Jelly down in Maine's going to be electric. Those two guys
Stockton
connecting
and
on
Malone.
the pick and roll. Woo-wee! I love it. So good. But yeah, what else can you ask for from your guy you took at 53? Was one of the kind of the more solid point guards, especially as Summer League went on. It felt like he started to figure stuff out, which, I mean, that's all you can ask for. And so you get him around these coaches, you get him working with someone that's going to be maybe playing in the big league as well. And he's got the dog in him. He gets up on the defensive end. He's trying to get blocks. He likes to rebound. Let's go.
I love it, dude. It's Summer League. The game is slowing down for him. The Summer League game is really starting to make sense to him. But really, a perfectly fine and like happy, successful takeaway from this is like, oh wow, he's not heaps fucking shit, and like that is completely fine for the 53rd pick. And like, not only is he not that, he's like, he seems like he's pretty good, but it's kind of like you touched on, it's borderline impossible really to evaluate talent in the summer league, like unless they're just clearly like NBA ready, like Tatum was in his summer league, before his rookie season. The defenses are comparably shit. The teammates around them also comparably shit. Like, it's just not even close to the actual NBA. That said, JD was better than expected, which I think is a better way of sort of phrasing what I said earlier. Not fucking shit. He's better than expected. Like, even kind of way better than expected, and super fun to watch. And, I'm excited that he's on a two-way. I'm excited to see him in some form of green. Hopefully, like, some spicy Geno time minutes in a couple of C's games in the 50 games that he's allowed this season. And the jump shot, is it real? Like, are we ready to declare the jump shot found permanently after those two games? Because he was fucking hitting them those 2 games. Yeah, exactly. These tiny sample sizes, he gets hot for 3 games. It's like, we have no idea if he can actually shoot. But like, I love the process from Brad and the back end of the roster process versus what we were doing a little while ago. Like JD, like I think you talked about expectations. Like I had Tremont Waters in my head compared to him as kind of the same archetype, like small guard that he took late in the second round. The difference being this guy's already one of the best athletes in the league, probably. So like you go, Jelly former. Sorry, I've started calling Kabengele Jelly, by the way. I'll see if it catches on. I'm for it. But yeah, former first round pick, JD, former 5-star recruit, and then Yuhan. I mean, like you just see the upside: 6 foot 6, 7 foot wingspan, athlete, like thick. Like I like the process, and then just 6 foot 7 white guys that are snipers. Like great process. Yeah, just enough to sort of remain high on for the remainder of the offseason, right? Just got a little tease of like, some spiciness in these prospects, and it's just got to be enough, like some methadone or something, not that I would know, like just to sort of sustain us until our next high, to continue that analogy. All right, so quickly before we move on to the final roster spot here, a post by Indubitably Good Sir. They say, to everyone hyped after JD Davidson's summer league, this is what we were saying about Carson Edwards after his first. Let me throw a few of these quotes at you, Jake. Here are a few regarding Carson Edwards after his first summer league. Quote, good ball handling, though he dribbles a bit away from his body, aggressive off the dribble, doesn't just shoot, unselfish passing, and seems to have a decent rebounding sense. Okay, so that's warming us up a little bit. Now we get a little crazy here. Edwards has shades of IT. Then another one, you guys got a great steal. You can add one more to your Celtics fan base. And then finally, I'm trying to stay calm about Carson Edwards, but he makes it hard not to daydream about all-star selections in his future. Oh my God. Not to bring us down like from the JD Davison high too much, but like we have been here before. Yeah, that's really good. I probably needed that. Yeah, that's very fair. But, that's more fun. That's way more fun to live your life that way than it is to be like, oh, you're probably going to suck, So I'm just going to hope that they turn into something. And if they don't, that doesn't matter because we wasted the 53rd pick and 2-way slots. The idea is like good processed. In hindsight, like Carson and Tremont that were sub 6 foot and can't defend was bad process. I'm a much more, sophisticated talent evaluator since then anyway. So, let's go with that. And credit to Carson. Like I've never done more squats in my life than when his, thighs were gracing our screens. So the motivation factor was there. All right, we're going to move on to the final roster spot here. The Celtics, they've signed 12 players plus JD Davison and Fiondu Kabengele, or Jelly as we're calling him, on 2-way deals. So there's technically 3 available roster spots, which thank you for helping me fact check that, Jake, before we started recording. How do you suspect these are going to be filled? Is the Fournier TPE going to be a factor there, which expires in like roughly 20 hours? How do you see that, just broadly speaking? Because, like we've said, like you've said in the past, Brad Stevens operates in the shadows. Like, if you had to bet, how do you think this is going to play out? It's true. Yeah, trying to read between the lines with all of the quotes from Brad and Matt Ryan sitting. Project Thomas didn't play the last game as well.
I would say it looks like Ryan and Thomas are going to get 2 of the slots. And then personally, selfishly, would give it to Johan, but that's probably a bad idea because I think as much as I love Jelly and kind of Cornet, there definitely is a need for a little bit more big man insurance. And I think that comes in the way of maybe the TPE, maybe a vet min. We still have the other 2 TPEs as well. So that would be my guess. You bring in Matt Ryan and Thomas, and people have talked about this on Twitter and stuff, like the fact that Ryan didn't come back through like an ankle sprain and he looked pretty much fine, and Thomas wasn't injured for the last game. The fact that they set out probably points to the idea that they've got a good enough look at them. And then, you probably bring in one more big man. If it's the TPE by tomorrow, I would be surprised, but I've been surprised by everything Brad has done so far. So.
Yeah, likewise. It would be surprising at this point because so many have said now that like the Brogdon trade was in effect the TPE acquisition, like salary-wise, and to bring in anything more than a minimum contract at this stage just would come with such a hefty like repeater tax, salary as a result. So
also one more thing that we can maybe talk about with the over-unders later. I don't know if you want to bring in like someone that's getting paid 10, 12, 14 million dollars with the promise of like not playing that much. I think that's just something that you got to take into consideration chemistry-wise. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, if you think about it, like the primary remaining position is that backup big, and they're going to be playing behind Rob, Horford, and Grant, possibly Big Bird as well. Kennard, not Luke Kennard.
Yes.
Having a mental play. I just know him in my head as Big Bird.
Kabengele.
Yeah,
Cornet.
you know what I'm talking about. Cornet. Thank you. God, it is the off season after all.
Well, that's Big Bird.
Luke Cornet. Big Bird. Yeah. So are we really going to elevate our tax bill beyond what it is just to get someone who probably at best is going to play behind all of those guys? Like, probably not. And so it's just going to be some vet min dude probably who sees the court in emergency situations. And then the secondary need is a backup wing. We talked about it possibly being Matt Ryan. I think maybe they also perceive Hauser as that, and then maybe you're hedging on that with Matt Ryan a little bit. Broderick Thomas might be a little small to be considered, a backup wing to Tatum and Brown, but I thought he had an all right showing, like more so than Justin Jackson in Summer League. So I'd be happy with any of those guys. And really, like, Celtics fans are going to shit themselves at like the lack of magnitude behind whatever names end up on the roster. But like, you nailed it, Jake. Like, the point is, none of them are going to play. There is a Reddit comment though from our guy ZGamer200 who says that, like, trying to be realistic about it, I'd want to see if the Spurs would part with Josh Richardson for 1 or 2 seconds since they moved on from DeJounte Murray. Sort of signals that they've entered rebuild mode. Otherwise, there's not really a target, in their opinion, that makes sense for the likely cost. Not just the TPE, but the assets he'd have to throw in to get someone like Josh Richardson. So it'd be nice to bring back, old mate, Jay Rich. But again, I just don't think there's enough minutes to justify him having a good time on the squad.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, that would be sick to have Jay Rich as your 11th man or 10th man. But
great vibes.
The 12 million, great vibes. Like he does that thing where he just lies down and stares at the ceiling when the pregame show is going on. I kind of always enjoyed that. But I mean, you can't. And I think you do honestly have to be careful about the chemistry. Like throwing in another veteran guy that is good enough to play like 7th man minutes on a good team. You got to be a little wary.
Yeah, well, I feel like we're probably going to be back with another pod pretty soon because this TPE does expire, and with every little thing that does or doesn't happen, the scope of what could eventuate narrows. So it's like the more that doesn't happen and more time that passes, the more we can get a sense of what might eventually happen. So more pods on that down the road, hopefully soon. Moving on, we're really zipping through all this. This is a great off-season pod, Jake. This is posted to the sub by Bryce Schoon, and it's a tweet from @NBA Bet. This is per PointsBet USA. It's listing the regular season win total over-unders for the upcoming NBA season. Boston on top there. 55.5 is the over-under for regular season wins. Jake, is that set fairly to you? And what are you taking there? Gun to your head. Are you taking the over? You taking the under? What are your thoughts?
I'll tell you what, I really enjoyed it more when everybody was low on us last year, when the Celtics were 50-1 to win the title, as opposed to now being the title favorites. But I think it's correct. The team that made the finals and that just blitzed the entire NBA from January onwards all the way through the playoffs. Added a former All-Star and a guy that started on a conference finals team 2 years ago in Gallinari and didn't lose a single core piece. And then the development of all these young guys, which I know I want to talk more about throughout the season, the off season as well, is like Tatum and Jalen have proven to get better significantly every single season. And when you factor in the growth of all of the guys that are 25 and under, as well as bringing in 2 high quality players, they're 10 deep, and that was kind of the concern later in the season is they had to go to that 7-8 man rotation. But now you got 10 guys that can play. They've already got the identity in place. They were on a 67 win pace according to, I think it was net rating in the second half or something like that. I still feel good about the over. The only thing that's going to derail that is going to be injuries, and that's about it. And maybe chemistry stuff. So last time the Celtics were this high on any over-unders or any odd stuff, I loaded up and on the Celtics, and it was the year Kyrie and Hayward were coming back, and it was a disaster. So that's why I've mentioned it a few times, because the last time I felt this good, I was hurt, man.
Take the under, please, Jake. Save us all from that reality again. Yeah, let me just play devil's advocate. Al Horford, Father Time will come for him at some point. And does that, if it happens in the first half or at any point this season, does that offset the talent add in Brogdon, who is injury prone in his own right, and Gallo, who, is on his way down, but hopefully, our staff can slow that decline by insulating him with the talent that we've already got on the team. Is that enough to sort of bring us back down to 51 wins, which is what we had this season? Also, other teams around the league, everything's not set in stone yet, but is it to be considered that they've all sort of made themselves better around the league such that we can expect less wins over the same amount of teams? Does that make sense? I've phrased that poorly, but I think you know what I'm saying.
Yes. No, it makes sense. Other teams got better. But I guess I do agree, and I'm going to have a better look at this, but the Celtics do feel like there is a fairly high, every team has injury risk, obviously, but the Celtics have maybe a little more than that than some other teams, just with Horford's age, Brogdon, and Rob. But at the same time, Horford never misses time. I do think we need to kind of reevaluate what Father Time looks like. And you look at guys like Steph Curry, who's 34, who just had one of his best playoff runs of all time. Obviously, you've got guys like LeBron. PJ Tucker's a year older than Al Horford and just got paid another 3-year contract. And for good reason. He was one of the key defensive forces on the conference finals team that took the Celtics to 7 games. So I do agree that there is maybe some higher level of concern there. Brogdon, but I mean, again, I was looking at the games played from the COVID year. Brogdon played 56 and Tatum played 66. Yep. So he played 10 more, but because these seasons were shorter, totally. The most recent one is concerning, but how much of that was the Pacers tanking? We don't really know. And those, so and then, of course, we get injured and the other teams got better, but we were just blitzing those teams anyway, and we got better. So assuming relatively good health, I think hitting 55 is pretty easy. And if you get really lucky with health, I mean, I think 60 is pretty reachable as well.
Yeah, 60 would be so good. I to be fair, I do completely agree with you. I would take the over.
Yeah, totally.
And if we can just get a season for once where Tatum doesn't start super slow and doesn't wait till sort of February to come into his own, if we can get there in December, early January, then there's your 60 wins right there, regardless of health. We've seen him capable of carrying a team at full health and in full form, which just unfortunately there's a ramp up there that he goes through every season. So
I have a theory on that, especially the most recent one was by far his worst start, and I think it has to do with the ball, because he went from whatever they had in the 2021 season, and then he switched to the FIBA ball for the Olympics, and then he switched to a new ball coming into the next season, and he needs things to be quite right. So another off season, the same ball, no fever
Wilson.
ball. Yeah, Wilson. Yeah, Wilson. Let's go. Yeah, so I'm confident.
Yeah, I am very confident as well. It's 93 days until the regular season starts, so
Hell yeah.
just gotta keep podding through the off season, keep that confidence high, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. Speaking of fun, this is peak off season content here. This is a post to Celtics Reddit by iFraz47, who says, "Wanted to do this for a while now, but after the playoff run the Celtics went on, which fan base was the worst to deal with while watching the team?" So most toxic fan base, or just overall most annoying fan base, Jake. Who have you got? And run us through your thinking here and how you came to this conclusion.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is fun to kind of think about. I did feel through the playoffs, each round, there was a few like Twitter account bosses that you had to deal with.
Yeah.
Except for the first round. I think I've mentioned this on the pod before, but like I went to games 1 and 2, 2 and 3 in round 1 in Boston and then Brooklyn. And the lack of fans both in the stadium and on Twitter, like I didn't feel that there was too much going on. The Bucks, man, that was a brutal one for Twitter because every game was just slowed down clips of Giannis running into people from both sides and people flopping and Zaprudering film, and everybody was just furious after every game. So that might be number one for me. Heat fans, I didn't find were especially annoying. We got the Heat culture stuff that makes you want to puke, obviously. But the part about the Heat series, it was the worst. I've got a few friends just through my life that are Heat fans, but like only for the playoffs. And I literally haven't heard from them since the last time they made the conference finals. And so I'm making jokes about like, oh, so that's Max Strus. He was, second round. I mean, a summer league guy. I'm making jokes about how they need to figure out who's on the team again. That was kind of my life from that point of view.
Love it.
Warriors fans, I went into that series so calm. Like I was just so happy to have been there. That I didn't feel that I got into too many Twitter beefs through that series. But I did find that the Warriors have kind of this superiority complex, because you got a lot of bandwagon fans over the past kind of 5-6 years. So I did feel that a little bit. But so if I'm going to rank most hated to least hated, it would have gone Bucks, Heat, Warriors, Nets, just because the Nets didn't have any. And I'll throw you an honorable mention after you tell me your ranking.
Oh, okay. Dangling the carrot. I'm excited. I guess I'll work backwards because I came to the same conclusion. For me, it's the Bucks. And purely because of the Middleton thing, going into the series, it was like, we're probably still going to win. But, if we had Middleton, we're definitely going to win. Either way, we're going to beat you. Middleton this, Middleton that. And then after the series, shaking their fists as we drive off into the sunset. If only we had Middleton, we would have beaten you. It's like, fuck you. Like, you didn't have Middleton. Okay, so it doesn't really matter. It's a moot point, right? Like, we lost in the conference finals. We didn't have Hayward. Really, he came back on one leg.
Yeah.
We didn't have Kemba Walker. Like, every team, for every postseason since the dawn of time, injuries are a factor. So I don't want to hear any more about Middleton. And, like, when I'll accept Middleton talk is next playoffs. When Middleton's back, if he's back, I believe he just got some sort of shoulder or wrist surgery or something like that. So who knows? It's definitely the Bucks. And then to circle back from the beginning, the Nets fans, they were annoying for about 1.5 games. Peak annoying, like if you're looking at it on a graph, was after Kyrie's 3 late in game 1. And then it really started to sort of pitfall from that point onwards. And by halfway through game 2, they were fine. Very pleasant, in fact. I didn't find the Warriors fans annoying at all. Kind of same plane of thought as you, Jake. Like there was a mutual respect between the two teams and their fan bases. Just like we met at the top of the mountain and like a little gentlemanly handshake and like, may the best man win or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
And then hate culture, like it makes me feel sick. There was a guy, Ronnie, someone who was commenting on all of our posts, all of our videos throughout, and like I guess credit to him if that's part of heat culture, just like knocking down the door of our podcast after every episode, win or loss, like don't worry, like heat culture's gonna come for you. That was very annoying. I'm so glad that we sort of binned heat culture for another year. So Heat come in a close second, but absolutely it's the Bucks and their fans and their disdain for us still so long after, like, it's over. No one, that was rounds of playoffs ago. No one's thinking about you. No one cares about Middleton. Shut the fuck up. And yeah, they keep talking about it. So it's the Bucks.
Dude, no question. And do they not remember that the only reason they got past the second round last year was because Kyrie and Harden got injured? Like, they were cooked. They were dead in the water when that happened. So
yeah, it's conveniently forgotten by Bucks fans.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. Let us know your thoughts. I think it's a fun one for listeners to comment on. Like, let us know the team that you have the most disdain for, even now, this long after the end of the season.
And my honorable mention, which we didn't get to play them in the playoffs this time, but the Toronto Raptors, those fans, dude, like, as they've been aptly nicknamed by Ben Golliver, the Toronto Termites, like, remember the game that we I forget the back-to-back, the first night, but the second leg, we basically didn't send half our team to Toronto, and it was like the Marcus Smart gets to be the heliocentric guy game, Hauser, and we went, I don't think it was overtime, we went down to the wire, and the
Awesome
Raptors, amazing game, one of the best games of the season, and the Raptors fans were just insufferable all over Twitter, in every comment section of every Celtics video I saw. And I was like, where is the self-awareness of what's going on here? No Jalen, no Jason, no Horford. Like, and I think there was like, they doxed Keith Smith on Twitter, who's like one of the nicest fucking people on NBA Twitter. Like, absolutely absurd. So, fuck those guys too.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, when we were going into the playoffs, the last few games of the regular season, everyone was like jockeying for position. And even then, the Raptors were like, watch out for us, watch out for the Raptors. Remember what happened last time you were in Toronto? It's like just conveniently forgetting all of those absences under a COVID vaccination cloud as well, if I remember correctly. But we don't have to go there. All right, so let us know your thoughts in the comments. We've got one more thing to touch on very quickly, and that is, and again, we may be peaking the previous segment with better off-season content. Jaylen Brown reportedly, I mean, there's photos of it, so reportedly is the wrong word, hanging out with Kyrie Irving and Kanye West in some sort of to-do. I don't know, Kanye West wearing a hoodie that was several sizes too small in temperatures that were several degrees too high. Jake, what's the takeaway here? What should Celtics fans think of this?
Now this I think this is perfect off-season content. Whether or not we're putting it out too quick, but photo just came out. Let's
give it 20 minutes. 20 minutes of material. Let's go.
Yeah. So, like, Jalen signed with Kanye's sports agency, who Kyrie is also a part of, and I think it's just something for Celtics fans to keep in the back of their mind with the Jalen contract stuff coming up, to expect a little bit of weirdness. Like, Kanye, notorious weirdo. Kyrie, Boston fans know this all too well. So the fact that they're all together is a little disconcerting, and that's the part that I'm a little worried about. But at the same time, I feel like we can kind of forgive Kyrie a little bit, because I know Jalen was probably one of the number one Kyrie defectors when Kyrie came out with the young guys rant. Jalen was like, dude, infamously, like, you're like 3 years older than us, bro.
Yeah.
Relax with the young kid stuff.
Yeah.
So, but we know about Jalen, thoughtful, spiritual. He's found it within himself to forgive Kyrie. So Celtics fans, maybe you can find it within yourself as well. But yeah, I'm just planting the seed for some potential contract. I don't know if that means that Jalen's not going to re-sign or anything. I'm just warning signs.
Yeah, we're just flagging it at this point, right?
Yeah.
Just like put it on your radar. It's deep. Like if you picture like a sonar graphic, it's deep. It's way off on the horizon here, but it's incoming. It's in the little the sounds of the sonar. It's a bad analogy. Are getting closer together. Anyway, please let me move on from that. May just cut that.
No, please.
It's not quite as bad as, like, remember when Kyrie signed with Rock Nation, and there was already a lot of discussion about but basically, Kyrie's probably going to go. But we're almost sure of it. Then he signs with Rock Nation, who are, like, at that point, completely affiliated with the Nets. And it's like, fuck, okay, this guy's gone. It's not quite there yet. And to date, the whole Jaylen Brown, like, retrograde and crystals, it's like a cute personality trait, right? Because he hasn't sort of, like, supplemented that with crazy behavior, a la Kyrie Irving. but it's like this could be like, the first domino, I guess, if we're really trying to over dramatize it a little bit. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, look, I think Jalen has portrayed a lot of the positive traits for people that think about the crystals and the moon. Like, it's a lot of positive. Actually, Kyrie honestly talks a lot about the positive energy and stuff like that, but the actions are certainly speaking louder than the words when it comes to Kyrie. I feel like Jalen has kind of married those two things together, and he believes that giving good energy leads to good energy, and that's like a lot of what his life is about, and he shows that in pretty much every facet of his life.
Sure.
So from that point of view, it could be a good thing. Like the good sides of the energy and the crystals and the moon. Let's just hope that the retrograde kind of swings the Celtics away every time, and we shouldn't have anything to worry about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't have anything else to add to that.
No.
I guess we've run short on our 20 minutes, but it is the off season. That is news, and therefore it's worth discussing. Is there anything else you want to touch on that we haven't talked about? Anything you want to circle back on before we wrap this one up, Jake?
No, I think that's we definitely touched on most of it. I'm way too excited for the season. I've come out of Summer League even more in love with Johan Begaron.
Oh yeah.
He's apparently going to be the thing that I do when I come home at 2 a.m. on Saturday nights. So we'll see how long that. I'm really going to get Timmy on the highlight train. Maybe I need to get a league pass for Paris basketball. Who knows?
I was going to say, we'll assemble the podcast crew, quick trip over to Paris, get a couple of Begaron jerseys.
Oh, man.
Begaron custom Celtics jerseys. That'd be nice.
I love it.
All right, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening. Let us know your thoughts on any of the topics that we discussed in the comments, YouTube, Reddit, etc. If you want to help us out, particularly comment on YouTube, feed that algorithm, or you can find us on Twitter at Celtic Reddit Pod. Jake, love your work, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Pleasure.
All right, folks, Wayne Spooney is going to be back with a special guest later this week. Until then, go Celtics. Peace.